Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sarah Wisted. Today's video is going to be an updated how I edit video. I did post one of these videos quite a while ago. I think it was before like Instagram Reels and TikTok and like video editing really came out. So I do have some tips on video editing, but I think most of you guys were interested in photo editing based on the enormous amount of requests I get on a daily basis. So I figured it was time to film an updated video for you guys. I think the first thing that I want to mention is lighting is the most important thing to get any photo, video, anything to even look remotely pretty, I guess. I don't know if that's the word you're looking for, but remotely like good and sharp and clear. You just have to have really good lighting. So I do have a ring light here right now because it is a little dark and rainy here in Atlanta today. Usually I don't need a ring light in my dining room, which is why you see me post so many photos in my dining room, because the light in here is so good. It's hard for me to post in other areas of my house because the light is so bad. So lighting, I think, is like my #1 tip. Find a spot right next to a window where light is shining in. I do have these sheer curtains in my dining room that I will close if the light is too harsh. You'll notice a lot of the photos that I post and videos that I post online have a very neutral, very clean, not a lot of clutter going on in the background, and that is intentional. Let's get into the editing. Although I do have to say, editing, a huge part of it comes from the initial photo being a very well composed taken photo. So that's why I think you have to think about what you want at the end result. You have to kind of think about that at the beginning. A few other composition tips that I think could help. But again, this is art. You do not have to take these word for word. Those of you who've taken a photography class or any sort of composition class know that the rule of thirds is a thing. And that's why when you open your camera to take a photo, there is a grid dividing your photo into thirds. Basically, the whole concept behind it is to place your subject or the main point of your photo in one of the points of the third. So the way that on Instagram specifically, the way I use the rule of thirds is to make sure that my subject is in the bottom 2/3 of the photo. So I leave space at the top. And it's just to keep your feet a little bit closer to the bottom. Yeah, I like to put my feet towards the bottom of the frame, not necessarily cutting them out, but I think it just elongates the subject to make you look a little bit taller and just to dry the eye kind of like up, if that makes sense. So I think one tip would be to, when you have a subject, kind of allow some space at the top for it to breathe and have them a little bit closer to the bottom. This is all like photography of a person, so I'm trying to think of home decor, what's helpful. Oh, I think for home decor, something that I've been doing a lot lately, not just home decor, but like lifestyle, like not necessarily of a person. I have really loved looking at a photo in a 2x magnified. Okay, it looks like this is recording, but for some reason it doesn't while I'm filming. Hey, this is my setup right now. Okay, so let's take a photo, for example. First and foremost, always clean your screen. See, already so much better. This is my view right now. So if I were to take a photo of this view, when you're on your video, you can see that there's like a 0.5, 1, 2, and 3. That's really just a shortcut to get to. 1 is just a normal view, like not zoomed in or zoomed out. 2 is zoomed in 2x, and then 3 is zoomed in 3x. Obviously 0.5 is zoomed out a little bit. 1 is normal, and then 2, a lot of times when I'm taking photos, I will zoom in to a 0.2, and I don't know what it does. I just feel like it makes the composition look more interesting. I do that sometimes with home decor photos, and I will move backwards. So if I want to get more captured, I will move backwards, move forwards, like however I need to move my body to capture that photo and make it make sense within the grid. But I do like a 0.2. So a lot of times when I'm about to take a photo, if you'll notice at the top left corner, you'll see a number, and this one says -0.7. My phone is almost always set at -0.7. Basically what I'm trying to say is I like my exposure to be darker when I take the initial photo. So let me show you the difference. And to get to that setting, when you're on your camera, you just swipe up with your thumb, and then you hit this +- button, and you can change it. So that changes the exposure. I actually like it darker these days, which is funny. I started at like always doing 0.3, which is here, and I've started like always doing 0.7 or lower. And anytime that there's like black in a photo, I do like the blacks to be like very black, so I do reduce the exposure quite a bit. It's literally the coziest, rainiest day here in Atlanta, and my husband is at the office and both of my kids are out of the house for the day, so peaceful. I love my kids, of course. I can't wait for them to come home, but it's like, and my husband, but I'm like, wow, it's kind of like quiet here and I can get a lot done. Like I never film YouTube videos, so that's great. So let's open my Lightroom app to edit a photo so you guys can see kind of what we're working with. Hi. As luck would have it, the screen recording of me editing the photos did not record, so I'm going to film just the editing of the photos as a new clip. Okay, so opening up the Lightroom app. The first picture I wanted to show you guys, I have already edited, so I'm gonna choose a different one. Same one essentially. I'm gonna edit this photo because I feel like it's a really good example of, the initial photo was okay, but it's not exactly how I would want it to be exposure-wise. It's an okay photo to begin with, but here's kind of how I edit it to make it pop a little bit more. The first thing that I would do when I see something like this is I do want the exposure to be down a little bit. I want you see all the browns and like some of the darker colors aren't quite crisp or sharp as I would like them to be. So I would go to the light tab, which is just down here on the bottom left. And it pulls up a few of these options. And the first one is exposure. So anytime I open a photo, exposure is typically the first thing that I mess with. The yellows is something that I mess with sometimes first as well. So exposure and then the yellow, the brightness of yellows in a photo are the two like main things that I edit. So if I'm looking at this photo, I'm gonna bring down the exposure just a little bit. So I'm gonna bring it down to here to start, just to start. And then now that the exposure is down, I usually, since I'm already in this tab, will go down to the shadows tab and I'll bring the shadows up just slightly and then go back down to exposure. Sometimes bring it down a little bit more. Let's keep it there for now. And then I sometimes will go down to this blacks line and I will bring the blacks down just a tad. Like I said, I like my dark colors to be really crisp or like pop a little bit more. So to help with that, the blacks tab, like bringing down the blacks also helps with that. So after I've messed with exposure just a little bit, I'll go into the color tab. And in the color tab, you'll see at the top right, there's a color mix, this little like with a rainbow wheel as well. I can't talk today. The rainbow wheel that says color mix, click on that. On this line where I'm in yellow, I'm looking at the saturation line. I don't typically touch hue and luminance. I have before if something looks too green or whatever it may be, but I usually only touch the saturation line, which is this middle line, and I'll bring down the yellows as much as I need to like the way the photo looks. So this is now, I'm bringing down the yellow a little bit and the photo is looking a little green or blue to me. So in order to correct that, you can hit the done button at the top right. You're back on this main color tab. And I'm actually gonna bring the temperature up of this photo just slightly because I am standing in a shaded spot, but it's a sunny day, so that sometimes casts a blue hue. So I wanna correct it on the white balance tab versus in the color mix tab. So I'm gonna take the temp line in the temperature line and I'm gonna bring it up just a little bit until I feel like the white, I'm looking at the whites in the back. Here, let me show you before. This is the before. You see the whites in the back look a little tint of blue. Like you can see kind of like a little tint of blue. I'm going to bring the yellow tab up just a tad until I feel like it looks more white. Like that looks more white to me. Okay, so that looks a little better. It looks a little green to me now. So I'm actually gonna go down to this tint, which is that second line. This might actually be a good photo because I don't usually have to do this many edits, but this will be a good show of what I'm trying to do. I think the main thing, just to like mention before I get into the very details like this, I always like the photo to be a little bit underexposed so that the darks pop or are just a little bit more dark. And then the second thing I always play with is the white balance to make sure the white looks pretty white or a little bit more on the warmer side, but it's mostly neutral. So I try and remove any blues or yellows from my whites in my photos. In order to do that, like I said, this is looking a little bit green, so I'm gonna go down to this tint and you see one side is green and one side is like a pink purple color. I'm gonna slide it up slightly to the pink purple because I don't want the green, so I'm hoping adding a little pink or purple will balance it out. So I'm gonna go to that and I'm gonna go up just a little bit. And I feel like that looks good. okay? So I've done that. I'm gonna go back up to the color mix wheel, go back and take some more yellows out. And you see how that's starting to look a little bit more neutral. Now that I have balanced out the white, now I'm actually taking out the colors. So I put the yellow down just a little bit. I'm gonna take some blues out, take maybe a little bit of this blue out too. And then I actually am gonna take a little green out. I do this a lot. It makes your greens in your photo look a little more army green versus like a true vibrant green. So I'm gonna go back to light. I'm gonna just look at the exposure. This actually exposure looks okay to me right now, but I'm just gonna see what it looks like darker or lighter and see if I like it better. So let's go to exposure. Yeah, I think I actually like it darker. Let's bring the shadows up just a little bit. And then bring the blacks down. All right, so this is the before photo, after. Okay, maybe it's a little too dark, so let's bring the exposure up just a bit. I think I like that. So I think this is where I'm gonna stand because the photo still looks natural, like not too overly edited, but the darks are popping a little bit more. I feel like the colors aren't as off balance, and yeah, it looks good to me right now. Oops, did not mean to do that. Okay, the next thing I wanted to show you guys is one of these photos. So this one, initially when I look at this, it is overexposed in my opinion, and it looks kind of blue to me. So those are the two things that I'm gonna try and correct. So the first one, I always, like I said, go to the light tab and try and fix the exposure because that helps me look at the colors after the fact. So on the light tab, I'm going to the exposure line and bringing it down just a little bit. This one I kind of like that it's a little brighter. Okay, so we're -14, go down to shadows. We'll bring that up just a little bit. And then the blacks, I do want to bring those down a lot just because there is black in this photo. So here we are currently, not a huge difference, but let's go to, my dog is agitated today. He's been barking for like 30 minutes straight, so I don't know what's going on with him. Okay, so now that we're here, we're in the color tab now. Because there is such a blue hue to this photo, I am gonna start in the white balance tab, which is just when you hit the color tab, that's the first thing that pops up. And I'm going to adjust the temperature like we did in the last photo. Because it's blue, I'm gonna bring it up a little bit on the yellow side. So let's do that. And when I'm doing this, I'm looking at the white in the background because that's what's looking blue to me, so that's what I'm trying to correct. Okay, I think I like it there. It's a little bit more warm tone, but like I said, I'd prefer it to be warm versus too blue. So I think it's good for now. Before I adjust anything else, I'm gonna go to the color mix tab, start with the yellow and bring it down just slightly. I think I'm liking this. I'm actually gonna bring it down to here, and it's funny because it kind of balanced out because I'm adding yellow in this tab and the color tab. I'm gonna add a little bit more, but then I take it out in the color tab. So I think that looks okay for now. Let's tap a little greens away, just a tad, to make them look more army green. And I think that looks okay. So that's before. That's after. Still looking a little yellow, so let's take more yellows out. Okay, perfect. Okay, that looks good to me. Back in the light tab, I might bring down the exposure a bit and see what that looks like. Okay, I think that looks good. And I'm gonna bring the blacks down a bit more too. And then detail, bring the detail up a little bit. And let's look at this. Before, after. It just looks like the whites in the back are corrected and everything looks a little bit more warm tone versus the cool tone, and the blacks are popping a little bit more and the overall photo just looks a bit more sharp. I'm trying to find one that like will require a lot of editing. Okay, I did want to show one of these ones. Let me reset this photo because this is a good... Okay, so this is a good one to mention white balance. This photo was taken early morning when the sun was not out yet. So I did have the overhead lights on, and I feel like you've probably heard this before if you're interested in photography at all, but overhead lights are like the worst lighting ever. And it's only because it casts a really specific hue into your photos. As you see here, this is very yellow and it's not like vibrant. It's just not as flattering as it would have been maybe with like natural light, for example. So this one is, I feel like, good to show because not only is it overhead lighting and it looks very yellow, the background is blue because the outside is dark and it's just becoming light. So let's edit this photo to show you how I would fix this situation. Okay, so go to the light tab. As I always do, I usually bring the exposure down first because it helps me decide what I want to do with the colors. This is already pretty dark. Let me make sure, yeah. This one's already pretty dark, so I don't really need to use exposure as much on that one. Let's go up to shadows, bring that up quite a bit because overhead light, it's overhead, so I feel like the shadows are really bad, so I like to bring shadows up quite a bit on that. There's not too many blacks, but we'll bring that down just a bit. So then in the color tab, this is where like the white balance, the temperature line really makes a difference. Obviously, this is pulling very yellow, so we're gonna actually bring it towards the blue this time. So I'm looking at the white on the back wall. Her dress is very yellow because it is like a ivory color. It's not like a true white. So I'm gonna look more towards the back wall and not necessarily her dress when I'm looking at the whites being balanced out. So taking the temperature line, I'm going to bring it down just slightly. It's already looking better. Okay, that looks good in the background to me. So let's go to the color mix and go ahead and take some of the yellows out. That looks okay, white balance wise. So the white balance looks good now. Let's take this blue pretty much all the way out. And I'm gonna go back to yellow and take more, I think. I think that looks better. Okay, so far this is where we're at. Already, in my opinion, much better. It feels more clean and uniform. Then let's go to the light tab. Again, I am gonna bring down the exposure some more because you guys know I like a darker photo. Bring the shadows up a little bit more. Do I like the way this is looking? I think so. Maybe here. Okay, before, after. I do like it dark, but maybe not that dark. Bring it up a little bit. Okay, this might be good. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the colors tab and take just a tiny bit of red out because the bow is kind of like very vibrant. So let's take a little bit of red. You have to be very careful when you're taking red or orange out because it could mess up your skin tone. And I feel like skin tone's really hard to get right. I'm not great at it, so I try not to mess up my skin tone, but you know, sometimes you do. So after that, I'm gonna go to the detail tab and sharpen just a little bit. And yeah, I still feel like it could be, let me go color. Let me take some of the blues out. Not -7, we'll go -4. Let's see what it looks like to take more blue out. All right, 82. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I'm probably gonna leave it there because that would be how I would share. If I was gonna share this photo, this is how I would share it. But yeah, you can see that this one was kind of more of an intense color balance situation, like more editing that you would normally do. But other than that, I'm really just taking a lot of yellows out, or fixing the white balance, taking a lot of yellows out to make the whites as neutral as possible. But I do lean more towards warm versus like I don't really like a cool tone edited photo. Not that I would never be into that, because this could always change. I like my photos darker. I'm trying to think what else. Let's do one more. I have like 5 more minutes, so I'll show you literally one more. Maybe we could do one of these because it's also inside, not great lighting right here. This one looks a little blue to me. I do have a ring light on in this photo situation, so it's casting a little bit of a blue hue. So let's fix that. Let's go to the actually, let's fix the white balance first this time. So in the temperature line, I'm gonna bring the yellow up just a little bit, and then now I'm gonna go to the light tab and fix the exposure, which I want down. Love that. I will bring, ooh, did not mean to mess with the highlights. Let's bring shadows up just a tad and blacks down. Do I like this exposure? Yeah. Color tab, color mix, yellow, bring yellows out. I'm gonna bring a little blue out as well. I guess I didn't mention, if you want to crop a photo, obviously you can crop here too. There's a crop tool. So I'm gonna edit that. Say we're doing 4 or 5. This is like the rule of thirds situation. You see there's space at the top of the photo. We're kind of towards the bottom 2/3 of the photo. And then the flowers actually are the main part of this photo, and they are in the bottom like third of the photo, if you will. So yeah, this would be, yeah, actually I'm happy with this. That's not a lot of editing, but here you go. Let's do some detail, sharpen. I might actually up the shadows a little bit more. Oh, 24, and then do I want to bring this down? Right there. Blacks a little bit more. Yeah, so this would be the end photo. But let's quickly talk about videos. So I think I showed you earlier, when I'm taking a video, I always have the exposure down on that. I think videos are even more important because it's very hard to edit colors in videos once they're in the video. So taking videos really is kind of more of a masterpiece, because you do have to think about everything prior to even editing the video, because you can't, like I said, you can't really edit the colors and just everything in as well as you can in a static photo versus a video. I don't often edit the colors of my videos. There will be on occasion that I will edit maybe the yellow out just a little bit if it's looking a little crazy, or if I didn't get the exposure right, I'll edit it. I'll show you guys just an example. Let me record this. So in Lightroom, you can also edit videos. Here, I think, is an okay example. Like I said, I don't really edit the color of my videos that often, just because I feel like that just, I mean, you're taking multiple clips and you have to edit multiple videos the same way. It's just a little bit more tricky. So I just try and make sure that the video, when it's shot, is the correct exposure and the backgrounds are all clean and ready to go. So if I were to edit this video, this one looks a little yellow to me. Maybe it's a little bit overexposed. That's really the only 2 things that I ever touch on a video. So what you can do in your Lightroom app, you don't have to have a separate app. You just go to color and you remove some of the yellow like we've been doing. I already feel like that looks better to me. And then in the light tab, I'll bring down the exposure a little bit, maybe bring up the shadows a little bit. Yeah, you could actually bring exposure down more. Before, after, let's play the video. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the video. I'm gonna show you this one that I did for Veriduck. I worked with this brand, Veriduck, and obviously it's a more intense way to put together a video when you have to make sure you're hitting certain points and showing certain things. So I feel like this is a good way to show you everything in one video. But if you're just doing your own family like video, for example, it doesn't have to be this intense. But this is how I edit my videos. I basically so I've taken many clips for this specific video that I will put together, and I guess the point of creating content, UGC, or for like a brand or whatever it may be, is to tell a story. So this specific story for this specific brand is that we wanted to add their specific planters and how that could make your patio space look more like a luxury backyard space. And so that's what I did. And I always have a before, which is showing you there's nothing there. It's kind of bare, kind of boring. And then I'm adding the planters. And you'll notice that in these videos, it's like multiple clips. That's one. So these two first clips, there's actually one pano clip that I just cut into little segments, so it looks like it kind of skips over. And what I've noticed in videos that perform well, that aren't just like a really good video, for example, but like something like this, is to have kind of like quick clips. I feel like end up performing better, unless you're like talking and doing something like vlog style. I've noticed that this ends up working better from my perspective. But yeah, so these seconds, it's like 8-second clips. I've actually noticed that shorter seconds work better, but I feel like 8 seconds for me is enough to see what's in the video until the next like scene comes through. So then you have these putting the planters down. I always film one far away, one close up, and then I put them together. It's really simple, actually. I mean, once you start doing it often, I know people, it's funny, it's like people my age, what is it? I'm a millennial. Why did I have to think about that for a second? But there's a lot of people my age who don't work in social media that are like, how do you do reels? And I'm like, it seems so simple to me, but I also do it every day. So I understand if you don't work on it or create it, then it's like, how do you do that? But you literally just film multiple clips and then you clip them together in, I have found 8-second clips is like a good starting point. Obviously make them longer if it makes sense. Like this one is 0.9, I think. I don't know. I feel like 8 seconds is like a good median. You can make them longer or shorter based on what video you're trying to create, but an 8-second kind of keeps the attention enough until you go to the next clip, if that makes sense. And yeah, it's just a lot of different angles, and that's it. And then in CapCut, you can also do voiceovers. So yeah, those are at the bottom, the voiceover. The other thing about voiceovers that I have learned from doing YouTube for so long is trying to cut out as many of the spaces, the pauses, the the just like the spaces, I guess, to get to the point, and kind of like cut off one word to start the other word also kind of helps keep people's attention. I really just noticed that on YouTube, so I don't know if that's like a TikTok thing as well. That's really all I have to say for video editing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I guess that's it. That's our video for today. So if you guys have any more questions about how I edit my photos or videos, definitely let me know. I hope you guys are having a good last few weeks that I haven't uploaded a video. Yeah, I will talk to you guys on my next video.